Alright, good morning YouTube. It's Nick with NK Landscaping, again as usual. Today we're going to be doing some maintenance. You might be able to hear, I got my work truck outside heating up because we're getting ready to do some service. So, on the docket for today, we have fuel filters. There's two of them on this truck. So the truck in question, we have a 2017 Dodge Ram 3500. This is the cabin chassis model. It has the 6.7 liter Cummins diesel with the automatic ACEN transmission. So we have the under the hood fuel filter. That's pretty standard for most of these trucks. And then this has a frame mounted water separating fuel filter. Super easy to do. Next thing, we're going to be doing an engine oil change. So I got a Fleet Guard filter. It's the LF 16035. We buy these in bulk because they are swappable between pretty much most Cummins, from like I think the 12 valve all the way up to the new 24 valve. And then last but not least, we have the EGR filter service kit for the 35, 4500 and 5500 cabin chassis trucks. If you're doing this on a standard pickup, this is not going to be the kit for you. This is only for the cabin chassis trucks. They mount the EGR cooler in a different way. It has a different set of gaskets. So out here I have the truck high idling to warm up the engine oil. Clearly we're going to start with the oil while the engine is hot, and then we'll work our way backwards. We'll do oil, fuel filter, and then once the engine has had ample time to cool off, mainly the exhaust, we will tackle the EGR. Now that is an overnight process. You have to let that cooler soak. So let's start with the simple stuff and then work our way to the quote-unquote hard stuff. Alright, I've had the truck high idling for probably 10 minutes. We're at just about 150 degrees of oil temperature. I don't want it any hotter than that because it's just going to hurt. We're going to show you exactly what to do to make this easy on you. The filters on these are a little bit of a pain to get to, but we are using the good old Shell Rotella T6. This is full synthetic. 540 is what this truck calls for. They want a 540 synthetic blend. If you've been around Cummins for any period of time, they generally prefer the 15W40. I believe for the 6.7, Cummins changed their mind, said they want a 540 synthetic. That's what we use. We just use this at diesel oil in basically all of our diesel engines. I've been using Rotella forever. I love them. I'm not sponsored by them. They're just a good brand of oil, and that's what we like to use. We got our filter, and we're going to need a few different tools to get this done. So we have a 5/16 inch nut driver right here, small little pair of channel locks, oil filter wrench, some gloves. So let's take you over to the truck and show you what we need to do. So in the engine bay here, our filter is down below this intake here. You can't even see it. So what we're going to do is, on this filter, we're going to take off these 5/16 hose clamps. We're just going to loosen them. So there's one here right on top, and then down there in the back of the turbo we have, not the back, the front of the turbo, there's one more, plus this hose right here. We're just going to take that hose clamp off, and this whole intake snorkus is going to come right out. So you can see the big prize here, the big intake snorkus with the little silencer right in the middle. So there's just that hose clamp right on top of this pipe. Be careful leaving it on there. I have had it fall down, this right here. It's probably a good idea just to take that off, because if it falls down there, it gets lost. So I'm going to hand these off to Kurt, and he's going to put them in a safe place for now. And now we have very easy access to our filter. You can reach right down in here and get it, and it won't make a big mess. We can also do an inspection on the turbo, make sure nothing's looking too oily or dirty down there. So we're going to get this oil draining now, so I can get this filter off and get some new oil in this guy. Alright, Kurt's going to take you downtown, show you what you need to do on the bottom side. It's quite simple.
Hey guys, we're going downtown and then we're going to go uptown. Alright, so you get under your truck and your oil pan's right there. The plug's right at the bottom, and it's just a like 3/8 drive bit there. So you just use 3/8 drive ratchet with a little extension, and you drain your oil. Pretty simple. pretty easy to find. You know, shouldn't really be too hard to get to. I will be using my newest addition to our ratchet fleet. If you go check out NK Garage, you'll see this ratchet, and we put this handle on, so you might want to check out our video.
So yeah, he's gonna get that draining. I have my filter wrench over here, so I'm gonna loosen up this filter, and I'm not gonna take it off yet, but I'm just gonna get it loose so I can do it by hand, and then I'll show you a good trick for that. Once you've gotten that thing broken loose with your tool and it's now hand tight, slip a little Ziploc bag or any type of garbage bag that you have around that filter, work its way up to the top. So now when you take this thing off, it's not going to drip all over your frame rail and onto your driveway and make a mess. I learned that on the internet, and I'll share it with you guys because it's a fantastic trick. So just like that, you can see our mess is contained in the bag. I have a glove on because, you know, even 150-degree oil is hot. So now I can go dispose of this in the way that we dispose of things, and wait for the rest of that oil to drain, get a new filter screwed on there. Alright, and just lubed up the top of our filter, just the O-ring. I don't pre-fill these filters, you're not really supposed to. Quick way to do this, just take your oil container, shake it upside down, take your cap off. Now you got clean, good oil to wipe on your filter. And while you're at it, grab yourself a rag, go over to the truck, and wipe the bottom of the filter housing. I've already done that. You never know what could be down there when you take that filter off, dust and grit. Just save yourself the headache, wipe it off, and get this installed. And then I'm going to leave this Snorkus tube out of here for when we do the EGR cleaning, which is right in front of you. So let's get this filter in. So the oil filter is installed, and while we're waiting for the rest of the oil to drain out of the engine, we're going to go ahead and tackle this driver's side fuel filter. So on this truck, and on most of these Cummins, even the old 24 valves, I don't know about the 12 valve because I've never had one, but down in here by your brake reservoir, you can see that cap right there. You can also see Kurt's face. Say hi, Kurt. Hey. So, to tackle that, we're going to need an 1 1/8" socket, a swivel adapter, some extensions, and a ratchet. So you can go and you can wiggle this down in here to get it on there. But before you go and take that cap off, you'll see that little yellow screw right there. That's a fuel bowl drain. So we're going to want to drain that out. That drains right on top of the front axle. So as the oil from the oil change is draining, Kurt's going to go down there with a second pan. I'm going to drain out this fuel filter housing so we don't make a horrible mess. So you just got to turn that counterclockwise, drain out the fuel. Make sure you shut it so when you go to turn your key back on after you do the filter install, you're not pouring fuel all on the ground. So we're going to get that drained, we'll get this cap off, and we'll show you this filter change. So the housing is drained. Here's the cap. Here's the new filter. There's your part number. So what we need to do now is there is an O-ring at the bottom of the threads there. So they do give you a new one in the kit right there. We have to get that fuel filter out of there. That's kind of fun. There's not a lot of room in here, and it's going to be dripping fuel the whole time. So you might want to employ that bag trick again. A little trickier this time because you can't slip it around the filter, but get ourselves a pick to get that O-ring off, and we'll get that out of here. So the new filter and O-ring are in place. I'm going to recommend that you do not lubricate the O-ring with diesel fuel. Use motor oil on there. The diesel fuel kind of dries out over time and makes a really sticky seal. Makes it kind of hard to get that off of there. Even the side of the packaging has basic instructions on how to do this, and they also recommend motor oil. They're saying then to torque the top cap to 22.5 foot-pounds. So we're going to do just that. We'll get that top cap put on there and shut the yellow fuel valve, drain valve. That'll be this upper filter. So now that the top side filter is done, we come under the truck. This is right near the rear of the cab. And we have this frame mounted water separating fuel filter. So there's a drain on the bottom. We're going to go ahead and drain the fuel out of here. And then we're going to take that off with the filter wrench. We need to swap the sensor on the bottom. So you're going to do that inside. You need something to clamp that in. but this is the water and fuel sensor. So you want to unplug that from the connector right up top here, and then we'll unscrew this filter after it's drained. Filter is out now. You can now see that wiring. Just a simple clip that comes out for the sensor. We're going to need to swap this out. So you got to do a good job cleaning this. In my case, it's covered in fluid film, just like the rest of the truck. That's what we use for rust prevention. It's a little nasty, but I'd rather have this than rust everywhere. So we're going to get that sensor swapped over. And here's the new filter. There's the part number for you. So that comes with everything needed. I believe there's a gasket here, and then the gasket, of course, on the bottom. So let's get this sensor swapped into the new filter. So while I'm working on the second frame-mounted fuel filter, Kurt's going to go ahead and add some oil. 1 gallon at a time. These trucks take almost 3 gallons, so he's basically going to add almost all of that. So let's get a quick shot of him pouring some of the good stuff. Looking good. We love that Rotella oil. If Rotella's watching and you want to work something out with us. Sensor is out and cleaned off. So there's just one little O-ring there that they give you with the new filter. Now I don't know why they do this, but they give you the O-ring for the water separator sensor and then the top O-ring for the actual filter that you need to put in that groove. I don't know why it's not in there like an oil filter, but don't forget to put that in. We're going to lube both of these with engine oil again, get that sensor tightened in there. I'm just using this very large 15-inch adjustable wrench. But we'll get those gaskets installed. This filter will go right back in the truck, and then we can bleed the fuel system, start the engine, get our oil checked. Alright, so back under the frame, the new filter is in. Petcock on the bottom is tightened. We have the wiring connected back in. So that is fuel filters complete. Kurt just put all the oil back in the engine. So the fluids that we need to change here are done. Now, something dumb that I realized, I said I was going to leave out the intake tube here. I can't start the truck if that's not connected, or I guess I could. It's just these sensors aren't going to be doing anything. So I'm going to get the truck started so we can check our oil and prime the fuel system, and then we can start working on this here EGR. Alright, so I just capped the oil fill. I'm going to leave the intake off. We'll see what happens. Worst thing I'm thinking is that it's going to throw a check engine light, but we have code scanners so we can turn that off. But to prime these fuel filters, it's very simple. Key in, turn to on, let it run. Give it like 15 seconds. We're going to shut it down, and we're going to do this process like 5 times. The electric fuel pump will run, it'll cycle, and purge all that air out of there. You just see I got a replace fuel filters warning, so we're going to reset that as well. Alright, key off. I'm going to take the key out. Door is open, so we're tricking the truck into thinking that it needs to shut down. Key back in, key on. I'm going to do this 5 times. So while you're doing this, it's a good time with the truck off to go through your menu here, because it's going to be yelling at me. I'm going to reset the engine oil. We're going to yeah, engine oil is good. We're going to reset our fuel filter. Confirm reset. Yes. There we go. Fuel filter and oil filter are reset. Alright, let's start it up. That was easy. No check engine light yet with that intake off. I mean, it's just idling, so it should be fine. We'll let that run for a second, let the engine oil cycle, shut her down, check our engine oil, and then we'll be on to the EGR. So Now that the truck fluids are changed, you got that cool little video of the turbo, we're on to the EGR filter service. Now, I bought all this stuff from Gino's Garage. They have a comprehensive kit. They even give you these rubber plugs. So when you fill the EGR cooler up with your cleaner of choice, you can plug the ends and not make a mess. Now, I've owned a lot of Cummins trucks. We have a whole parts bin for these trucks with all sorts of filters and stuff. And I order all my filters and things from Gino's Garage. I love supporting them. Like I said, I've been buying stuff from them for years. I'm a member of TDR, Turbo Diesel Register. I've got my 200,000+ mile badges. Well, not anymore. We should have taken that off of our old truck when we sold it. But this is my third Cummins powered truck, and fourth if you want to count the one that I maintain for my dad. So I love the Cummins engine, and I love Gino's Garage. Once again, not sponsored. I'm just shouting out a great company that we buy things from. But they were nice enough to give a full EGR cleaning service kit and instructions. So first thing I want you to do is change the crankcase filter. So that's the thing right on top of the valve cover of the engine. Now this truck has 65,000 miles on it, and I did the 60,000 mile service 5,000 miles ago. I did the crankcase vent with that service, but did not clean the EGR. So we're not going to worry about the crankcase vent. We're going to jump straight to the EGR cleaning process. So we'll walk you through that. Alright, so go ahead and grab yourself a magnet tray so you don't lose every single bolt that comes out of here. First thing you're going to want to do, dipsticks coming out. 4 8mm bolts that Gino's calls, this is the batwing cover. We're going to want to remove that. The batwing cover has been taken off, and I put the oil dipstick back in just because it doesn't need to be out anymore. Next step is going to be taking the 3 10mm bolts that hold the dipstick cover or dipstick handle assembly in place. With those bolts and bracket taken out, we're next going to remove to the EGR valve. There is a clip right here, so wiggle that off just like that. I also removed this pressure sensor or temperature sensor, whatever it is, so that's both of those out of the way. 4 10mm bolts that hold the EGR assembly on, and then we're going to undo this hose clamp right here so this whole assembly can come up and out. We now have our EGR valve and housing off of there. As nasty, both there and there. So thanks government for making everybody have to put these on their trucks. And imagine if you had to breathe that all day, like it's like fart in your mouth basically. We need to take these 4 Phillips screws off the back of the motor to clean the valve all the way, so let's do it. Alright, EGR valve motor is now out of the way. So not much to this. I think it's actually just like a solenoid. But what we need to do now is we need to take the EGR valve out. So right in here, this is just like valves on an engine. You have the retaining clips right there. So we need to push down on this outer circle so that we can pull those retaining clips out of there with a magnet. So I found a quicker way to do that. Just took a socket, fit right over the top of this, and gave it a little tap. So those 2 retainers fell right off. Everything came out. Don't launch that across your garage. Now the EGR valve moves freely. So what they recommend is take this outside in an open space and blow that out with a compressor. And then we're gonna scrub it down and let that thing soak overnight in Purple Power. So I should have read the instructions a little better. I can remove that side elbow piece. So I just did that and blew them out even further because the Gino's kit includes another gasket for that. So Kurt is now going to work on cleaning this. He's going to soak it in Purple Power. Give it a scrub with a toothbrush, a wire brush, some Scotch-Brite. So Gino's recommends using non-diluted Purple Power. Yeah, just don't go soak in the motor. There's no need to clean that. It might wipe down this seal right here, but I need to work on taking EGR cooler out. So this is where these cabin chassis trucks differentiate from just a standard 3500 or down. This EGR cooler is very easy to get to. It's right on the top, so it's not going to be very hard to get it out of here. I'm going to start with the crossover tube here. That's two 10mm bolts, and we can get rid of this. According to this paperwork, you have that right there. On the back side, there's two nuts that hold that on. It looks like there's this coolant line right here on the side. Maybe a couple other things, and some mounting bolts, but it doesn't look very hard to take off of here. So I'm going to work on this. Then we're going to make our way to the back. Probably going to be wrench access only. That'll take care of the exhaust side of things. So this crossover tube has a bracket right here. There's a pesky little 8mm bolt jammed between this coolant hose and that bracket. I'm not going to worry about it. I just tipped it up out of the way. Now we have two 15mm bolts on the back side of this where it actually connects to the exhaust manifold. So not a whole lot of room in there. It's most likely going to be wrench access only. Alright, so that came out as two studs, even though the nuts were supposed to come off. We pulled the studs out of the EGR cooler. Not the end of the world. Let me tell you something though. That is quite a pain to get in there. You barely have enough room to get your arm in here. It's right on the back where you can't see it. For the left side one, so that'd be passenger side actually, I was able to get a 15mm wrench on there. That worked. Right side, I tried with a stubby wrench. That didn't work. I wasn't able to get enough leverage on there. So what I ended up doing, I wasn't able to do it. Kurt had to get in there. Deep 15mm with a 1-inch extension on a flex head ratchet. And this was down there. Kurt put all his strength into it, busted it loose. So it took about an hour since I last filmed my last shot, but we got it out. Now it looks like we have, I think, 3 or 4 hold down bolts, 10mm, that hold down the EGR cooler, and then another 8mm here. I think this is a coolant line, so hopefully that doesn't make too much of a mess. I'll put a pan under there, but let me see what else. Start getting this out. Take a moisture intermission. It started raining on us here. See, I got this cool garage. It's just it's not very tall, so I can't fit, you know, big vehicles in here. So I get to work right outside the garage, which is nice. But anyway, there was this crossover pipe. This is for the crankcase breather, so that had to come off. That was, I think, one 8mm bolt. And then on the diagram they don't show it, but right here, my little pointer, right here, that is a coolant line. So that was an 8mm bolt. It's just held in with an O-ring. And then on the back side, right about here, I'll show you actually on the EGR cooler. So 2 8mm bolts. You're gonna want a pan to catch that coolant, but yeah, right here and right here. So there's O-rings that the Geno's kit gives you. So now that's where these plugs come in. Basically gonna fill that with a warm Purple Power solution, plug it, shake the crap out of it, and then they say to let that sit overnight, and then you just wash it out with a hose in the morning. So off camera, I took off the intake horn. That was just a few more 10mm bolts up top. There's a shroud that had to come off, and this throttle plate. It's just a plug, and then the band clamp for the intake intercooler boot. So that was later in the Geno's manual. I did not see that, but when you see in here, you'll understand why. Look at all this carbon buildup on the grid heater. So this, if you don't know, Cummins engines do not have glow plugs, or at least the ISB engines do not have glow plugs. It's a grid heater, so this gets power when you want to start the truck cold, and basically like a little hair dryer element. It heats up really hot, heats the air. The Geno's kit gives us a new gasket here, so I'm going to get in here with the shop vac and a little brush, clean this all up, strip this gasket out of here, so we can get this cleaned up. Alright, so I spent a bit of time here with the vacuum because you don't want anything dropping down in here. This is your intake manifold, but I got that clean. So Kurt's working on the intake horn. Okay, so the EGR valve has been fully cleaned and reassembled. The new gasket here on the crossover pipe. This has been cleaned to the best of Kurt's abilities. We pressure washed everything out. What's a little disappointing on this, look at that, made in China, on like a large part like this. Come on, Cummins. So I'm gonna get this installed with the new gasket, then I'll install the EGR valve on top of that. Alright, so the EGR valve is back in. I haven't done up this clamp yet because I still don't have the EGR cooler in, and I still need to wiggle that pipe around, or the crossover pipe here. If you're wondering about torque specs, basically any of these 10mm head bolts, if you've worked on Cummins for any period of time, you know that they love their 18 foot-pound torque spec. So this, and then the intake horn down here. We're still missing our center bolt because that's the one that supports the bracket for the dipstick tube, which we'll go back on in a second here. That is going to be 18 as well. So new gasket on the intake horn, two new gaskets on the EGR valve, new gasket on this side of the crossover pipe. We're going to want to make sure, find them here, we reinstall our plugs. This one has a safety clip. Alright, so it's the next day, when in reality this is a work truck and we need it back for work tomorrow, so we can't let this sit overnight. So we took the plugs out, pressure washed it out just like Gino's recommends, and it is looking a lot cleaner in there. I bet if you let it sit overnight you could get it even cleaner, but this is where we're at. While I was waiting, cleaned the gasket mating surfaces front and rear, and then I installed the new coolant O-ring. So there's two of them, one here and one there. I just used dielectric grease on there to help me slip those on, and that'll help us slip it into the EGR cooler. So now I'm gonna wrestle this thing back in here, start with the coolant fittings, then bolt the back exhaust bolts in, and then the front crossover pipes. Alright guys, everything is back together. The engine bay is back to looking very cramped. Batwing cover's on, crossover pipe is on, all the gaskets are in, they've all been replaced. Everything is tight, and I believe everything is back in place. I don't think we're left over with any parts, which is always a good sign. I'm going to run the truck, but I want to pop this coolant cap because we leaked some coolant. So start it up, make sure everything looks good, no leaks, let it idle here for a little while, and then top off the coolant. I think that's a job well done, so let's do that. Alright guys, so I just let the truck high idle its way all the way up to the thermostat opening temperature, which is about 197 degrees on my particular truck, or that's what it likes to maintain. So we got it up to 203. I made sure the heat is working inside. The coolant bubbled a little bit right down to where it's supposed to be. And I've been looking over everything. Doesn't look like we have any leaks. Everything looks really good. So I think that's a job well done. Now, I know this wasn't a great tutorial, nor is it really meant to be a tutorial. It's more just me kind of documenting my process that I go through, following the Gino's manual, plus oil change and fuel filter change. So, if you liked the video, feel free to like, comment, share, subscribe, all that nonsense. And if you don't want to, you don't have to either. So, fine with me. Yeah, I'll see you on the next one, guys. And Kurt's not in here anymore. He went inside real quick to clean up before we go. Give him a check out at NK Garage. The link is in the description and in our About section on our profile. So he does all sorts of tools. So basically all the tools you saw today, That's an NK Garage thing, so he's going to do a full toolbox tour and everything, but he goes over repairs, maintenance of tools, buying and selling on eBay. So feel free to check him out. But I'm glad you checked in with me today and got to watch me struggle a little bit. Mechanics are always a little bit of a struggle, so I will see you on the next one. Enjoy the rest of your day, guys. Bye.